Assalamu alaikum. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do intermittent fasting, and today we're going to talk about both so that if you do intermittent fasting, you're not going to mess it up. Now, as you know from my other videos, I'm not the biggest fan of intermittent fasting. There's a lot of other types of diets that I actually prefer that I find more sustainable and more optimal, especially if you're a busy and stressed out professional working in a demanding field, business, whatever it may be. But if you're dead set on doing intermittent fasting, or maybe you watched the podcast I did with Dr. Maita and you're thinking to yourself, I really want to give that a try because I have a lot of insulin resistance, then here are the three biggest mistakes people make when they're doing intermittent fasting. The first one is thinking that just because you're fasting, you have some magic weight loss cure and you can eat whatever you want and you don't have to account for calories. Well, newsflash, calories in versus calories out is still always going to be relevant, okay? So it doesn't matter if, you're fasting all day and you only eat one meal a day. If you eat 5,000 calories in that meal and you don't burn 5,000 calories, which none of us do, you'd probably have to get 30,000 steps a day to burn that much, okay? Well, guess what? You're going to find yourself in a place where you're gaining weight even though you're doing fasting. Oh, no, the magic of IF didn't work. No, it's the fact that you didn't work for it and you ended up binge eating. And that's the problem is a lot of people, they become more prone to binge eating when they do intermittent fasting because it increases their cortisol if they already have too high of cortisol. Of course, everybody's different. Everybody has a different response. But what I found with a lot of people who already have high stress and high cortisol is their cortisol just gets worse from intermittent fasting, which is why it's not the optimal weight loss strategy if that's you and you notice that you end up binge eating more when you fast all day. So that's the first thing is you have to be disciplined and you still have to count the calories. The second thing is not accounting for digestion. Now, there are some people who can still digest very big meals just fine, but I'm not one of them, okay? I'm somebody where I actually do better on more frequent smaller meals and big meals, even if it's the cleanest, healthiest food ever, low fat, fiber, protein, complex carbs, easy digesting, foods that I'm going to respond well to. If I eat a giant meal, I do not digest it optimally. And especially if I'm having those bigger meals later in the day because I'm doing, a popular intermittent fasting protocol that works really well with business and with, doctors and a lot of these, people who we work with who kind of just accidentally end up not eating all day and only eating at night. Well, the problem is if you eat at night and then you're bloated, it affects your sleep quality. So if you're like me and you fall in that category where your digestion gets messed up from having, bigger, less frequent meals, then that's also another mistake that you're making on intermittent fasting, to where a better protocol would be, let's say you have like a 6 to 8 hour eating window, that you actually spread out the food during that eating window if you're on that particular, 16 to 8 intermittent fasting window, so that you're not doing these giant meals that mess up your digestion, while making sure you also don't make the first mistake, which is eating too many calories and getting into a surplus and failing to achieve the deficit that's responsible for fat loss in the first place in all situations, because Allah created this universe with the laws of physics and you can't break the law of thermodynamics, which is calories in versus calories out. You have to burn more calories you consume. And if you consume in excess, even if you burn a lot, you're still not going to lose weight. Now, the third big mistake that people make on intermittent fasting is that if your energy levels get low during the fast, okay, some people's energy levels go up for sure during the fast, but a lot of people's, including mine, go down during the fast, which is part of why I'm not a big fan of it, because I noticed with myself and with most people, their energy levels kind of get messed up and don't stay that good, especially later into the fast, okay? Well, when your energy levels get low, if you allow that to drop your activity levels, then of course you're going to end up burning less calories, which means not only are you potentially eating more calories if you're messing up in the first mistake that people make, but in the third mistake, you're not getting as much activity. Your step count goes down. So what does that mean if the three mistakes are eating too many calories, eating too big of meals if you get digestive issues, and binging on all these foods that are hard to digest, and of course, letting your activity levels go down? Well, then the three solutions are: you need to still control your calories, count your calories. You need to make sure your digestion is optimized, whether that's spreading out the meals, whether that's fixing the composition of those meals, which ties back in with point one. And number three, you need to make sure your step count stays consistent and your performance in the gym stays consistent. And you're still hitting your workouts at their proper capacity, as we've outlined in many other videos. Okay, and that's another thing I don't like about intermittent fasting, is that workout performance drops down for people like me. Again, there are some people, and I always give the example that a lot of my Egyptian clients, or something about those Egyptian genetics, and actually Palestinians, people from the Sham region, for some reason, their genetics seem to be better equipped for fasting. But if you're a Pakistani who, maybe you were naturally skinny fat like me, okay, now before I lifted for 15 years, obviously that changed a couple things. I'm not skinny fat anymore, but if I didn't lift, I'd be skinny fat for sure. In fact, I'd be obese fat by this point. But the point being, in fact, I even still got obese while lifting, but the point until I fix my diet and all the other things we talk about on this page, but the point being, you have to fix that as well. And if your workout performance goes up when you fast, then great, you're somebody who's built to fast, like a lot of these Egyptian and, clients from the Sham region. But if you're somebody who, again, your performance in the gym goes down when you're fasting, then you may not be somebody who should be doing that, which is, again, mistake number three. Now, I'm going to go into a bonus mistake number four that I just remembered, which is the fact that if you get all of your food in one meal and that's your fasting protocol, it's not really structured or intentional. Scientific studies have shown that on intermittent fasting, if you only get 2 servings of protein per day, the absorption and protein synthesis is not as optimal as if you get 3. Okay, so even if you're doing fasting, Okay, let's say you have an 8-hour eating window. It's best to get a serving of protein at the beginning of that 8-hour window, which is a principle we apply in Ramadan. Maybe you've seen that in my Ramadan videos. In the middle of that 8-hour window and at the end of that 8-hour window. So you're giving yourself 3 spikes in protein synthesis, which will give you close to equal protein synthesis to somebody who's eating, a normal eating schedule. However, I just like to eat my normal meals, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In fact, for a lot of people, I'll sometimes even up that to 4 if their schedule allows it. And for myself, definitely more frequent meals. I get better results because it allows me to do smaller, easily digesting meals. My energy levels are better and I just feel better overall. And it kind of helps me to align the quadrants of my day. I kind of time it with my prayer times and everything else and my breaks from work and my shifts and tasks. But again, there are ways to set this up. But just don't make those 3 mistakes, and inshallah, you should be able to get better results from intermittent fasting. Don't make that 4th mistake either. If you need more help with this, you can obviously tap the link below to learn more about our program. If you're still dead set on fasting, we can potentially try to get you results while fasting. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a genetically terrible response, you will still get great results. But if not, we can solve whatever metabolic damage was done to you by fasting in the past and get you in a place where your metabolism is much faster to where in the future you can get results from fasting or you can get results on a normal diet. And if you're not dead set on fasting, then still tap the link below because we can put you on a normal, clean, sustainable, realistic diet that allows you to get your favorite foods in moderation, have healthy recipes for your favorite foods and flavors as well to ultimately get the best results possible, sustain, completely custom to you, any parameter you need, whether you want fasting, whether you want no fasting, whether you want traditional food, whether you want to go strict. We do everything custom to make sure it works perfectly for you. And I'll go ahead and attach another video right here that's relevant to this topic. And I'm going to attach another one right here. I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.